Have you ever heard of a crime so heinous that it remains unsolved for over 4 decades? Well, that's exactly what happened to the brutal murder of Evelyn Marie Fisher Benforth in Miramar, Florida. In today's video, we delve into the case that remained a mystery for over 40 years until DNA technology finally helped identify the killer. Stick with us until the end and you'll discover one of the most horrifying murder cases of all time. After almost 43 years, the murder in Miramar has been solved. A woman was brutally murdered inside her own home, and the police now claim to know the perpetrator and have sufficient evidence to substantiate their claim. In the city of Miramar, Florida, on January 22, 1980, police officers found the body of Evelyn Marie Fisher Benforth, a brilliant psychiatric nurse who had been sexually assaulted and murdered around midnight. For over 40 years, authorities were unable to solve the case until DNA technology helped identify the killer. Evelyn Marie Fisher was born on March 23, 1947, in Sardis, a small community located on the south side of Chilliwack, Canada, to her parents, Charles and Ethel Fisher. After attending Chilliwack Senior Secondary School, she proceeded to study at the Riverview School of Psychiatry Nursing, where she completed her studies within a few years and became a fully licensed psychiatric nurse. While working at a hospital in Vancouver, Evelyn met John Benforth, the love of her life, in 1969. John was a bartender at a bar that Evelyn and her friends visited regularly, and they fell in love. They were a match made in heaven, and everyone who knew them couldn't help but notice. John said, "The first time I saw her, I fell for her, you know? She was just great to be around. I never had any regrets about being with her." After a few years of being in a relationship, John received a job offer in Grand Cayman, which meant he had to move out of Vancouver. Evelyn, not wanting distance to be a hindrance to their relationship, made a sacrifice by quitting her job at the hospital and moving to Grand Cayman to be with John. The two eventually got married and had a blissful and trouble-free time together in Grand Cayman. Their love for each other grew stronger every day, and they both seemed to have a bright future ahead of them. However, after 2 years in the Grand Cayman, Evelyn grew tired of the place and expressed her desire to move somewhere else. John, although not expecting it, knew that if she continued to live in Grand Cayman, she would be unhappy, and so he supported her decision. They moved to Miami and found accommodation in the Haven Lakes Estate mobile home park located in Miramar. They both got jobs and started their lives anew, happy and content. After 6 years, a female friend of the couple moved in with them, although it's unclear when or why she started living with them. Nevertheless, they welcomed her with open arms. On January 22, 1980, John left the house after kissing his wife goodbye to go to work, leaving only Evelyn at home as the friend also went about her business. The day seemed like any other, and no one had an inkling that something terrible was about to happen. Evelyn had recently undergone knee surgery and as a result had taken time off work to recover. It was anticipated that she would soon be back to full health. Later that same day, the friend returned from her outing and found the front door locked. She assumed that either Evelyn or John had locked it since it was already dark. She had no idea whether one or both of them were home. She tried to find her spare key in her bag, but realized she had left it at home. The friend knocked on the door, calling out their names, but received no response. The silence was only interrupted by the occasional honk of passing vehicles. She tried banging on the door as loudly as she could, but no one came to open it. As time passed, her anxiety grew, and she had a sinking feeling that something was gravely wrong. She found it strange that no one inside the house seemed to have heard the noise she was making. She attempted to open other doors to the house, but they were all locked, further adding to her worry. Eventually, she decided it would be best to involve the police. She swiftly called the emergency services and informed the dispatcher about the situation. Within minutes, officers from the Miramar Police Department arrived at the location. They began knocking on the doors and windows of the house, but there was no response from inside. After some time, the officers decided that they needed to force entry into the house to be sure that no one was in danger. They broke down the front door and proceeded with caution into the house. Upon entering the living room, they found that everything appeared to be in order. However, on their way to the bedroom, they were met with a sight that was beyond comprehension. Evelyn lay on the bed, soaked in blood. It was a scene straight out of a horror movie. The friend of the couple was stunned by the gruesome scene before her. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Evelyn was lifeless, and upon closer inspection, it was discovered that she had been bludgeoned with an object. The police officers quickly secured the area and began conducting a thorough search of the house. John headed home after work, content and unperturbed. The night was cool and pleasant. As he approached his house, he saw several police cars, which alarmed him. John realized something was seriously wrong and hurried home. Police tape at the front door frightened him. He entered the house past the tape despite his uncertainty. He saw unfamiliar police officers and noticed the furniture and cushions were disturbed when he entered. He saw the bloody bed as he entered. John learned Evelyn's body had been taken to the hospital for an autopsy. Police gave him all the details, but his wife's death broke him. John was allowed to make tea to calm down before accompanying the hours to the station for further questioning. He described the incident at the station and was released after a long time. Several days later, Evelyn's autopsy revealed that she was sexually assaulted before being murdered. Due to limited technology, the detectives collected DNA from her body and stored it for future use. Detectives found little evidence when they began their investigation. John felt guilty that if he had been home with his wife, she might still be alive. John remembered feeling guilty because he wasn't home when he should have been. In February 1980, Evelyn was buried in Chilliwack, her hometown. Some of her family members suspected John of killing her. These accusations depressed John. He used drugs and alcohol to manage the pain and moved to England. "I've been a different person ever since," John said. "I used to trust people, but now I don't." Detectives made a breakthrough 2 months after Evelyn's death in March 1980. Ronald Richards, 33, assaulted and nearly killed a Volusia County woman. Ronald was found living in Miramar, where Evelyn was killed. The Miramar police helped Volusia County officials apprehend Ronald, who was later convicted of attempted murder and sexual assault and sentenced to 50 years in prison. Despite being unable to provide concrete evidence that Ronald was the killer, Miramar police noticed the similarities between Evelyn's murder and a previous crime committed by Ronald in Volusia County. His proximity to Evelyn's home and strange habit of jogging at night added to their suspicions, as did his previous conviction for manslaughter against his girlfriend. Despite this, the case went cold, and it was only in 2021 that DNA evidence from Evelyn's body was tested, confirming Ronald as the killer. With Ronald already incarcerated for a separate crime, he was charged with Evelyn's murder in November 2022. Evelyn's husband, John, was updated on the progress of the case and expressed a desire for justice for his late wife, though he acknowledged that closure is a difficult concept to achieve. Meanwhile, detectives suspect that Ronald may have other victims and consider him to be a serial killer. Evelyn's case remains the oldest solved cold case in Miramar's history, and while her family has received some closure, the pain of her brutal murder will never truly go away. If you have any thoughts on the appropriate punishment for Ronald's crime, please share them in the comments section. After delving into the most disturbing case of Evelyn Marie, it's incredible to know that justice has been served even after 43 years. DNA technology played a significant role in identifying the killer, who has been living freely for decades without ever being held accountable for the crime. It's important to appreciate the effort of law enforcement officers who worked tirelessly to solve the case. As we come to an end, we hope that this story serves as a reminder to us that justice can be served no matter how long it takes. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.